Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Today we are going to be talking about the MS10, the synthesizer right here. So right now I have 3 MS10s. It's pretty excessive, I've got to be honest. I have one that I use in like when I play. I've got this one, which is usually at the museum next to an MS20 so people can play it. And I've got another one, the spares and repairs right now, which I'm actually putting up on eBay, and the link is below. All of the money is going to go to Red Cross. I was going to use the money to buy Heimbach's single, but then I realized that Bandcamp was going to take most of the money, so it didn't really work out. So I'm doing it that way. So if you want a slightly broken MS10, we'll have a look at it a little bit later. Well, have a look on the eBay link below. But yeah, we're going to talk about the MS10 and why I personally, it's an opinion, don't get offended, I personally prefer it to the MS20. I'm not sure why. So the MS10 is a monophonic synthesizer by KORG that came out in 1978. It's the little brother of the MS20, which, as you can see in this picture, has more knobs. Ooh. The MS10 has 1 voltage controlled oscillator, 1 voltage controlled filter, 1 voltage controlled amplifier, and 1 envelope generator, and that is pretty much it. There's a couple of other things like noise generators, this, that, and the other. The MS20 has a fair few extra things, including a really like funky envelope signal processor thing at the bottom. It's got an extra oscillator, it's got an extra envelope generator, and it even has a high pass filter. So the MS20 is obviously a much more capable synthesizer, but why do I not like it as much as the MS10? I just don't know. So let's find out. So first off, back at the end of 2012, I got my first synthesizer off eBay. It was a broken MS10. I managed to fix it over a bit of a while, and after about a month or so of owning it, I suddenly felt the need that it just wasn't enough for my synthesizer needs. So I built an oscillator to go on top of it to kind of try and act like an MS20, and I haven't got a photo of that, but that slowly, well, it quickly ended up becoming sort of a really rubbish clone of an MS20. However, luckily in around late 2014, I managed to find a reasonably priced MS20. So I bought it, and yeah, my dreams came true. I had an MS20, a real MS20. It was a Mark II, so it had the Mark II filter, and I was happy as Larry. Larry is obviously a happy person. But that's when my dreams all started unraveling. After about 2 or 3 weeks of messing around a load with the MS20 with all of the extra features and stuff, I found myself going back to the MS10 and just preferring to use the MS10 over the MS20. What? But why the fudge was that? Well, I have some theories and we're going to have a look at those today. The first thing and the most obvious thing is the KORG MS10. All of them have the KORG 35 chip for the filters. Only the KORG MS20 Mark I and the reissues, you can flip them over, have that filter. I'm not really somebody that's like, oh yes, I can tell the difference between a filter from 20 miles away. Oh yes, it's like, oh, it's like champagne. No, like you can pretty much make all of them sound, you know, pretty much the same. And for some undescribable reason, I just found myself not happy with the way the MS20 sounded. And for some reason, the MS10, it's just way better sounding and way more present. And I have tried numerous different types of MS20s now, even the Mark Is and stuff, and there's just some unexplainable thing that is just, this sounds better. What the fudge is going on? So first off, let's have a look at some of the sounds that I like in the MS10 before we do any more MS20 bashing. I'm not really bashing it, it's just opinions, just opinions. Anyway, so first off, let's have a look at the single oscillator. Without the filter on, we'll just flip that up and have a listen to the sine, the triangle, the square. I'm somebody that likes simple synth sounds. I don't like all the bloop, 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 you know, unicorns having poos. And to be honest, like a single oscillator and a keyboard, that just keeps me happy for hours anyway. Anyway, let's have a look at the VCO. Another cool thing with the VCO is this is really musical. You can do it on the MS20 as well, but you know, you go bloop, bloop, bloop. The other thing is there's not many knobs, so you can quickly get over to the knob that you need and give it a good old twist. let's hop over to the low pass filter. Like I said, this is the same one as the one in the Mark 1 MS20. The Mark 2 MS20 took on a different one using operational transconductance amplifiers, but this one's got the KORG 35 chip in it. And I think, this is a funny theory, but maybe I think I prefer the sound of this because it's not going through another filter before. It just goes out of the oscillator, into the low pass, into the VCA, boom, boom, boom. And when you turn the resonance up, it isn't plasticky, it's really, 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 really funky. Gee whiz, Sam, I wonder what it sounds like when you turn the resonance up to max. Oh. Now when we flick the sound source over to the white noise, we get a lovely phrase maker and it makes some cheeky little special effects. Now this is when we can make use of the hold feature on the envelope generator. It makes the crescendo of a noise just long enough to kind of last most of a chorus. So you whack that up, pop it right there, smack the keys and you have a chorus crescendo and you could just forget about it. Another thing I forgot to mention about the VCO is the pitch. It's really big and coarse, which is different to the MS20, which is annoyingly fine-tuned. So it means you can channel your Paul Gilbert from Racer X. So we've done Racer X, now it's time to do Kill Bill with a bit of portamento. This spicy 2 hours crisp and present, whack up the modulation generator knob on the VCO or the filter and then go wiggly wiggly on the LFO. So up to this point, a lot of this stuff you can also do on the MS20, obviously, but like I said, doesn't sound as good for some weird reason. But there is something on the MS10 that the MS20 doesn't have unless you modify it, or maybe the issues have it. I don't know, but it's got pulse width modulation with control voltage input. So we can channel our Nick Bat. If I told you in a weird way that the keyboard on this is sort of not really, no it isn't, but it's velocity sensitive, but it definitely is not. Yeah, what I mean is a lot of monophonic synthesizers of this time used a type of envelope generator design that meant if it didn't get to the end of the decay cycle and you removed your finger, it meant they jumped straight to the release cycle. So what that means is if you make the decay a little bit shorter and the release a little bit longer, what you could do is you could lift your finger off at different times in the decay cycle. That means you have a version of velocity sensitivity, but it's more about the velocity in which you remove your finger instead of put your finger down. So it's more like playing a glockenspiel and keeping your finger on it or taking it off. design on the MS10 and MS20 is a low cost and simple design. That means that the oscillator is hertz per volts, it's not volt per octave. That is quite common for a lot of DIY synthesizers for the time. Yamaha CS monophonic synths, but sadly it isn't as common and as relevant nowadays. Another side effect of the low cost keyboard design is it is high note priority and it doesn't re-trigger. So if there's always a key push down, the envelope generator will never re-trigger. So you could go like this. One thing that I wished was slightly different with the MS10 design is the external signal input. This is a volume knob that is basically just the volume of what you plug into the external signal, and then that goes through the filter and through the VCA. Other synthesizers of the time have a knob that you can turn up the volume of how much noise goes into the signal. It would have been awesome if this was a switched jack, so when nothing's plugged into it, the external signal was just a volume for noise, but it doesn't matter. You just get to plug in a jack coming out of the noise into the external signal, so you get extra frazzle on top of your bass lines. So with the MS10, for me, it pretty much boils down to three main sounds that I think it just does really well, and I think it does better than the MS20. That is a single oscillator, open filter, kind of pulse width modulation, fat sound that you just heard. And then there is the really expressionless sawtooth kind of synth line on the top. And of course that noise that goes through that beautiful filter to be able to make all plethora of noisy special effects, including helicopters coming over the distance. And of course the almighty resonance that really hurts your ears, but in a nice way, because you're like, ow! So I think what I'm getting at is this is basically all the good bits of the MS20 pretty much. You can change the sound to absolutely everything in the space of seconds because there are comparatively less knobs. Whilst it is sometimes nice to have the high pass filter and extra things, I don't know, I just don't use it as much as this stuff. And with the signal processor, whilst it is good, it ain't, you know, it ain't amazing. And the fact that the MS20 has two oscillators, the funny thing is, I don't know about you, but personally, one oscillator is great. And then when you get to two, you're like, oh, I wish there was a third. I think that synths really suit one oscillators and three oscillators. Two oscillators are always just a little bit in the middle. You're like, oh no, I wish there was another oscillator. And then yeah, there's the other thing that isn't that tangible, which I just think that this sounds better. Maybe it's just as simple as the signal chain is a little bit more immediate. Maybe it is just that. I don't know what it is. It goes against my logical thinking as well. But whenever I try an MS10 and go, oh, I'm just being silly, it just doesn't sound as good. The other great thing about the MS10, along with a load of other synthesizers obviously, is they sound really good through effects and effects pedals. And I especially like this through the MOD DIY valve spring reverb effect. quickly, another thing that has just come to mind that this has over the MS20 is knob spacing. Yes, hear me out. The MS20, yeah, it's a little bit bigger, however the knobs are slightly closer together, and it's really annoying because with the MS10 the knobs are a little bit further apart. You could be a bit more boisterous with it because you don't need to be looking at it, making sure that you're not like fumbling all over like that. Anyway, let's try it with an effects pedal I just got hold of. I haven't read the manual yet. It looks like you probably need to read the manual for this one. It's the MICROCOSM by HOLOGRAM. Ooh!
You should really read the manual or watch my video. You have to try it with plinky sounds.
Was Heimbach in the video? Was that in my head? Did you see Heimbach? I swear Heimbach was. How did he get in the video? I've got to check, but what? Right, so let's have a look at the one I'm going to put on eBay. That's this one right here. This one I took on tour a year and a half ago or whatever it was, and it took a bit of a beating, I've got to be honest. Unfortunately, the cheek on this side had broke a bit. It's a bit wiggly, but nothing that a bit of glue would fix, or if you want to make wooden sides on the side, bit of Velcro here, there and everywhere. You know how it is, you know how it is. On the front, it's looking a bit sorry for itself as well. It's all right, it worked. I don't know whether, we'll figure out whether it works. I must be honest, I think I might have made a silly doo-doo on this one, and but we'll have a look and we'll test it in a sec. So yeah, it's a bit dirty. You can see it's a little bit, ooh, it's a bit nasty. I think that might have been from being stored a little bit. It's got dust here. There's a little bit of corrosion here and there. This is not the one that was in the sea when I shot and took those photos. That's not this one. The corrosion is all on its own. It might have been from beer because I remember it got beer on it a couple of times. Got beer on it. Oh yeah, this is one thing that happened mysteriously. One gig. I don't know what happened. I think somebody might have dropped something on it. Like it was on the stage, was working fine. I got to it and the knob, this potentiometer is like seized. I think somebody might have either dropped something on it, or maybe they sabotaged it by putting super glue in it. I don't know. Okay, let's plug it in and see how broken it is. So let's turn it on. Filter. So the potentiometers are a little bit sticky. This one's making a little bit of noise. It sounds like the contacts in the key bed are a little bit crusty as well. So Okay, so it seems to work. However, I have a confession. It isn't all good news. I did an experiment with this and a Van de Graaff generator, and the static managed to damage one of the operational amplifiers in the envelope generator. I know, I'm really sorry. So the envelope generator isn't fully working, so it isn't all good news. It seems the attack part of the envelope generator isn't working. What whoever wins it needs to do is take it apart and potentially swap the operational amplifiers that are sitting around this bit. Funnily enough, it's a very similar issue to the KORG MS10 that I bought way back in 2012, so you might be alright. So this won't be sold as a functioning synthesizer, and I think it'll be a great entry-level kind of repair job for a budding person that wants to get into DIY and analog synthesis. So the link to this eBay description is below. Like I said, whatever this goes for, I'm going to buy a Heimbach single on Bandcamp, but I'm going to bypass Bandcamp and send the rest directly to Red Cross. I think it makes sense. Anyway, that's it from me for now. There's a couple of sample packs of KORG MS10 sounds, special effects, and this, that, and the other over on my Patreon, along with a load of other sample packs, songs, and this, that, and the other. So if you want to support this kind of malarkey, then go and check it out over there. This one is on eBay. And yeah, I've been looking at my computer. This is the MS10. If you like, we'll see it.